The big breaking story on your screens at this hour. The Supreme Court has cracked the whip on Vijay Mallya, asking him to disclose all his foreign assets owned by him and his immediate family, both in India and abroad. Not just that, Vijay Mallya's lawyer has told the Supreme Court that there is no point in Vijay Mallya returning. Mallya has said to the Supreme Court that he will be thrown in Tihar jail as soon as he arrives. Ashmit Kumar is here on the phone line. Ashmit, firstly, take us through what the Supreme Court has observed and what exactly has been communicated by Vijay Mallya to the Supreme Court.
Well, at this point, there are four essential aspects to look at. First, to briefly run through the order. The Apex Court at this point has not, in fact, bought into any of the arguments that Vijay Mallya put forth about drawing the distinction between domestic assets and overseas assets. Now, the distinction that Mallya had sought to draw was that at the time of the grant of loan, the only assets that were due for consideration were domestic assets, and that at this point, banks cannot claim any entitlement for disclosure of information over overseas assets. That was his primary contention. The Supreme Court not having any of it. The Supreme Court, in fact, has exposed now the sealed envelope that had been submitted by Vijay Mallya with details of his assets in India and abroad, has now directed for that sealed envelope to be, in fact, given to the banks. The Supreme Court's reasoning is that the banks have sought for a meaningful solution. The banks have sought for negotiations, but for negotiations to take place, it's crucial that the banks are aware of the paying capacity of Vijay Mallya. So towards that end, not only Vijay Mallya's assets, but also that of his wife and his children, their assets too, and a list of those assets will be submitted to the banks. That's the Supreme Court's first direction. The second is that the recovery proceeding, which began with the Bangalore DRT, the Bangalore DRT now has been directed to resume hearing in that matter expeditiously. The Supreme Court has granted just a 2-month deadline for this matter to be heard. So the heat is clearly not off. From focus now in Delhi, it goes to Bangalore. The DRT is where the focus will be in terms of action with respect to recovery proceedings. Which brings us to the third and an equally crucial aspect as to when is Vijay Mallya coming back. That was one question which, in fact, the Apex Court put across to Vijay Mallya's counsels in as many words. However, Vijay Mallya's counsels have clarified that they haven't received on any instruction whatsoever in terms of when he's likely to return. They also argued before the Apex Court that it's meaningless to return at this point, given the context, given the environment that currently prevails there. They argued that they believe that Vijay Mallya will be shipped off to Tihar jail the minute he lands in India, and that at this point even the passport has been revoked, so there is no question of him coming back to India. And it is in response to this that importantly, it's important to point this out, that the Attorney General today remarked before the Apex Court that if necessary, the government will take necessary action, the government will move the UK government, if deemed necessary, to take action, to take necessary action, to take suitable action against Vijay Mallya. So clearly at this point, banks turning on the heat, including the government as well, and the focus now will shift to the DRT Bangalore for further proceedings on recovery.
Ashmit, stay online with us. We have Hitesh Jain, the senior partner of ALMT Legal, on the phone line as well. Hitesh, you heard Ashmit point out what Vijay Mallya has communicated to the Supreme Court through his lawyer. Clearly, he doesn't seem to be returning to India. In fact, he said that it is meaningless to return to India and he'll be shipped off to Tihar jail as soon as he lands. Is this a very clear objective that he will not be coming in? And what can the Indian authorities do? As the Attorney General said that they could move the UK court, would that ensure that legal authorities create that deportation that we'll be looking at?
See, one thing is very clear from the stand taken by Vijay Mallya before the Supreme Court, that he does not intend to come to India. His perception, which he has formed, that if he will come to India, he will be arrested, but that is due to his own conduct. But, you know, instead of trying to take, like, for example, last time when he was told to disclose the details of the properties, he took the technical plea under the Income Tax Act, which was ridiculous because the charge on Vijay Mallya was that he was trying to siphon off the assets. So therefore, they wanted to know the disclosure so that they can ascertain how the ownership, when the assets were acquired, and how the money was, from what was the source of the fund for purchasing those assets. Now, he tried to confuse that with by taking the benefit of provision which is available for NRIs under the Income Tax Act. But, you know, instead of trying to think from the perspective that I will come and I will be arrested, I don't think the authorities have indicated that he will be arrested. But the actions of Vijay Mallya, instead of...
I get that, Hitesh,
no,
but what
I'm on the most important point, that unless he makes a bona fide, unconditional offer of depositing some 3,000, 4,000 crore or 2,000 crore upfront And then he says he is ready to talk. I think I'm sure there will be the apprehensions can be allayed. But sitting in London, dictating the terms to India, and then to say that I'm apprehending arrest, this is not going to help Vijay Mallya.
Okay, he actually has made a bona fide upfront commitment of 1590 odd crore rupees. Hitesh, just stay on the line with us. Let me bring in Satish Manchinde as well. Satish, I'm trying to understand now that it is fairly clear that Mallya may not come back to India. At least, what do the Indian authorities have in terms of options now? Is moving the UK court an option that Indian authorities have?
Well, first of all, one has to see that Vijay Mallya has made an offer of depositing 1,500 crores. 2.5 crores is lying already in the courts in Bangalore, in the High Court in Bangalore. So I don't see any reason why the banks were getting more than 50% of the original loan amount should not be accepting such an offer. Apart from all this, the Indian government has already revoked his passport. We have a large number of Indian citizens sitting outside India without using the Indian passport. If at all he applies for a foreign passport, I don't think it will be rejected because he has not committed any offence abroad. See, the UK government as well as the US government,
the possibility of a deportation here isn't very... Satish, are you saying that the possibility or the case for a deportation isn't very strong here then?
Well, deportation for what purpose? For facing an economic offence where he says that he's ready and willing to clear a bank. And first of all, it has to be seen whether it is an extraditable offence.
Hitesh, come in on this point as well. Do you believe that the case that Indian authorities have so far, keeping Supreme Court's judgment and order today in mind, do you believe that there isn't a strong case yet to create the deportation order of Vijay Mallya?
Well, I have a different take. According to me, economic offences are extraditable and you can get the extradition. Now, how you are going to place and all, that's a different thing because, you know, the problem is twice or thrice the problem with the Indian authorities is they have not been able to present proper material before the English court. In fact, in one of the English matter pertaining to extradition, the English court said that the manner in which the evidence and everything was presented does not constitute any confidence. So, according to me, economic offences are extraditable and you can get Vijay Mallya extradited. I don't see any this thing. And about this 1591 and all these offers, I mean, these are all offers with conditions attached. I mean, he has to be very clear upfront, make the payments, deposit the payment with the bank. You cannot just make some sealed envelope given to the bank and make statement here or there. You have to show the color of the money to the bank and then you can seek an audience to sit with them in the atmosphere what he wants and not in the Tihar jail. So the whole idea is that's the takeaway on the point.
All right, Hitesh, completely out of time. One last quick word to Satish. Satish, as you said that he's already deposited a certain amount, 1590 odd crore rupees. The argument that he made to Supreme Court clearly hasn't been accepted. What are the details or what can he furnish now for it to be accepted by the Indian authorities and for them to not take the criminal route? What would you want to hear from Vijay Mallya quickly?
See, first of all, the Union government has made it stand clear that every penny of the 9,000 crores will be recovered.
Okay.
I don't see on what basis they made such a statement because he doesn't have assets worth 9,000 crores in India, number one. Secondly, if you think that you can compel him to cough up the money by cancelling his passport and revoking his passport and making, issuing a large number of warrants against him. 2 warrants are already pending against him.
Right.
I don't think that's the right attitude of the government, particularly when a person is coming forward to give you 6,868 crores out of the 7,000 original loan that he took. And it is common knowledge that banks have written off interest because they are getting the principal amount.
All right, Satish Manchinde and Hitesh Jain, thank you so much for joining in. I'm afraid we're completely out of time, but we will keep addressing the story through the day on CNBC TV 18. But